What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo, yo.
So, Nick, I don't think there's a prospect at 170 that's rising higher and at a quicker rate right now than Vicente Luque. And that submission win over Michael the Maverick Chiesa, the stranglehold man himself, just has shot him into title discussions, and he's even being acknowledged by the champ Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, this was really a breakout performance for Vicente. I think he's one of the guys that is going to wind up in a title shot with Kamaru Usman sooner than later. I do see him having to do probably one more fight just because of the timing, and he needs to stay active. It's probably best for his career to just keep fighting. But yeah, I think when you get a nod from the champ and you're a nice guy, everybody in this sport sees the biggest characters are usually the bad guys, and it's because they're just the most controversial. They can catch the most headlines. But every now and again, you have these guys that are just nice guys that are just really good, and they do still um, operate under the confines of an entertainer and a promotional, a marketer. And Vicente Luque was that. He basically just asked for his shot, and I did it in a polite manner, and I think that works sometimes. As long as you're authentically yourself, it works. You don't have to go spit venom into the microphone if that's not you. And he didn't do that. I really appreciate seeing somebody do them and do it well, and not only in the cage but outside of the cage and on the microphone. It worked. It really worked for him, and I would love to see him get a title shot, but I don't see that being his next fight. So I'm sure we'll have another exciting fight for Luque probably before the end of the year.
Yeah, I would certainly think so. And he seems like the guy that's just ready to fight and wants to be active. So I don't think he called out the champion, but he's well aware of the logjam at 170 right now. You have the rematch with Colby and Kamaru. We have to see how that plays out. You have Leon Edwards waiting in the wings, and so there's some moving parts there. But he certainly did enough to solidify himself at least in the discussion. And I think his next fight, although it won't be for a title, I do believe it should be for a number one contender's spot. And as you said, he's a good guy. He's just an all-around good human being. He's good on the microphone. He presents himself well. He does all of the media. He takes times for the fans. And if you try to be the heel and you're not the heel, it actually ends up backfiring on you. And I think that happened to a lot of people. And I'm glad to see Luque is not falling into that trap. But just talking about the X's and O's of his performance, I mean, what can you really say? Michael Chiesa is the guy that submits everybody. He's the guy that walks out to stranglehold by Ted Nugent and then proceeds to strangle his opponents. And this time he got submitted via Darce choke. It was spectacular, and it was a great grappling exchange that happened there because Chiesa was actually working a submission on Luque. Luque was able to reverse the position and end up in that Darce. And one thing that Michael Chiesa did say leading into this fight is that he's gone back to training in the gi quite a bit. And I am a big proponent of the gi. I love training jiu-jitsu in the gi. My favorite sport to watch, I always say, is MMA. My favorite sport to practice and train is jiu-jitsu, without a doubt. I love it. And so I have tremendous respect for the sport and for training in the gi. But that said, Michael Chiesa, there are some things in the gi that's different than no gi, especially in MMA, with the gloves and with the slippery sweat and all of that. Michael Chiesa, in my opinion, made one fatal mistake that cost him the fight. He went for submission over position on that armbar attempt. And when he did that, it caused him to kind of fall off of Luque's back a little bit and then end up on his own back with Luque on top of him. That's when he was able to wrap up that Darce choke and ultimately finish Maverick Chiesa. So I think that the fatal mistake that he made was attempting that armbar from really not a very advantageous position. Whereas I think if he would have been able to just stay on top of Luque and kind of, ride the wave, so to speak, maybe he could have found the finish, the choke that he was looking for. I think he got a little too eager for the submission. And as we see a lot of times, when you get too eager for the submission, you end up the one tapping.
Yeah, that's very true. Going into this fight, I thought that it would be largely a stand-up match because their jiu-jitsu specifically, but their grappling and their jiu-jitsu would kind of just cross each other out, and they would both respect each other's abilities on the ground. And after round one, maybe there would be a little bit of grappling exchanges, but then it would just wind up being a stand-up match. And I was favoring Luque for that. I do realize Michael Chiesa is a good striker. He's not at the level of Vicente Luque on the feet. But he is an unorthodox guy that can definitely clip you with some hard shots, and he's kind of weird with his stepping and stuff. So he's hard to deal with on the feet, but a technical master like Vicente Luque can definitely weather that storm. And I think he would have been able to maybe not finish Michael Chiesa on the feet, but I think he would have wound up winning 3-1. That was what I was going to assume would happen in that fight. Turns out it was completely different. They stood for a little bit, and then they went right to the ground, and Michael Chiesa looked really good there. Careless mistake cost him the fight, and it seems to me like Vicente Luque has not only a bunch of grappling and jiu-jitsu skills, but he has one particular move, which is the one he just caught him, and it's kind of like a darce, kind of like an anaconda. It's almost kind of like a guillotine. It's a little bit of a mixture of everything, and it's very impressive how he's able to do it. He's not only done that to Michael Chiesa, but he's done it to other really high-level fighters and champions from the UFC's welterweight division. So I would like to, believe that somebody's going to be able to stay safe in that situation. But it seems like Luque just has your number, and he'll probably finish anybody in the welterweight division if he gets them in that position. And so while I do think that there's a ton of good grapplers and wrestlers and stuff in the welterweight division, if they get down there in that sort of a position, it's going to be a rough night for him, because he's got that thing mastered and he's got it down to a science now.
He certainly does. I mean, he's submitting the guys that were previously deemed to be unsubmittable.
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley handed him his walking papers along with the first submission loss of his career. Michael Chiesa just submitted him via Darce choke. I mean, in the first round, this is becoming very impressive. And not only is his submission game phenomenal, but his striking he's got KO power as well. He's very well-rounded for a young man. His main training partner, his best friend, is Gilbert Burns. That's if you're training with that guy every day, iron sharpens iron. We know Gilbert's one of the most decorated BJJ guys that's competing in the UFC right now. So I think the future is extraordinarily bright for Vicente Luque and Michael Chiesa for that matter as well. Michael Chiesa made a mistake and he lost the fight because of it, but we all make mistakes, and it's happened to literally some of the GOATs in the sport, including Anderson Silva when he put his hands down in front of Chris Weidman. Things like that happen.
Yeah.
And I think that Michael Chiesa will come back strong. And I wouldn't count him out for fighting for a title in the next 18 months either.
Yeah, I think his stock didn't go down that much. When you lose to a guy as good as Luque, people realize, okay, well, maybe this guy's just better than everybody. And just because this guy, Michael Chiesa, didn't beat Vicente Luque doesn't mean he needs to get, swept under the rug and forgotten about. He's still very much a dangerous fighter and a horrible matchup for a lot of people at 170, all the way from the number 1 to number 10 seed guys. So I would like to see Michael Chiesa get back in there soon. I know he seemed very ready for this fight, and it didn't last near as long as he probably wanted it to, but that's just going to fuel his fire and make him even more hungry and eager to get back into training and get his eyes set on a new opponent, a new date, and a new training camp to get him fresh again.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see what happens next for both of these guys.
Me either.
Well, guys, thanks for watching this video. Were you as impressed with Vicente's finish of Chiesa as we were? And do you think he's a legitimate title challenger? Let us know in the comments. We always love talking with you guys there. And if you've enjoyed this video, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. And if you listen to audio podcasts, we are there as well. Check out the Barnhill Brothers on audio. And if you have the ability to leave a review, please do so. It helps us out tremendously. Until the next one, guys, have a wonderful day.
Peace.